I'm going to take a gamble and say that you have seen this coaster somewhere on the internet on your screen. This ride is known as Gravity Max, and it's known as a tilt coaster. If you're not familiar what a tilt coaster is, it's when they move a large section of track and rotate it so the track can be fixed to a different segment of track that's locked in place while this track is rotating so it can lock on to the other track and release the car so it'll fall and go through a different roller coaster section course. There are only a few of these rides in the world. To be exact, there are only 4 of them that are going to be existing in the world by the year 2020. If you're wondering why there aren't a lot of tilt coasters in the world and why they all reside in Asia, I want to give a great detailed description of why these don't exist anywhere else in the world. So let's first look at the first tilt coaster of Gravity Max. This is at Discovery World in Taiwan. It was built in 2002 by Vekoma. It was a small model that they built that has a height of 114 feet, a speed of 56 miles per hour, features one inversion, and of course has the tilt track, which is a rare coaster element that only the tilt coaster has. So this ride was built by Vekoma. So why haven't they manufactured them anywhere else in the world? I mean, Vekoma, they're not a regional company. They don't stay in one part of the world. They bounce around the globe with their models. Vekoma, they're known to clone their ride and copy and paste it to many parks because many parks want their model because they're usually cheap, they're usually reliable rides, and parks go to them because they can get a cheap price when they're on a budget. So it's a little strange that we didn't see Vekoma copy and paste this coaster around the globe, because this seems something that would bring in a lot of tourists, because this is very unique. We don't see these anywhere. So this would have been a great thing that Bakoma could have put on the market as a way to draw in attendance for smaller parks. That's how boomerangs and SLCs worked. So the problem with Bakoma, when you look at the track profiling that they use for the tilt coaster and goes for their boomerangs and SLCs, this isn't Bakoma licensed track. What I mean by this track is designed and owned by Aerodynamics. So what happened was, Bakoma, they licensed Aerodynamics track design. So they were able to use their track design to put it on their coasters, so they didn't have to design their own track configuration. So we see this with other manufacturers, how they use other manufacturers' track design. Like we see with RMC, they license their track design to S&S and Skyline Attractions, so we can see these 40 free spins and these Skywarp models. So it's non-common that we see Vekoma use this track design because they've used this for many of their coasters. The problem with Aerodynamics, they went bankrupt in 2001, so they couldn't license this track design anymore because in 2002, the same year they built Gravity Max, S&S Worldwide, they purchased the rest of Aerodynamics, so they own what was left of that company, so they own the track design that they adapted onto these rides. That means Vekoma couldn't use this track design anymore. That could be a partial reason why we don't see any tilt coasters by them at all anymore. This was the only one they built. I don't think Vekoma, they really had a need to build any more of these tilt coasters, because to do this, they would have had to redesign a whole new track and adapt it to this style of ride again. So I don't really think they wanted to do that. That could just be my opinion on why Vekoma doesn't want to build any more tilt coasters. I mean, we've seen Vekoma doing other models, like Vekoma's launch coasters like we see in Asia. That could be a reason why they don't do tilt coasters, because they have a better profit idea with these newer models. Even though Gravity Max was the first coaster designed of this type by Vekoma, that didn't stop a different manufacturer from taking hold of this idea and adapting it to a different style of ride. So I don't know if any of you have heard this company. So Golden Horse, they're one of the biggest entertainment companies in China. So they're used to building their kind of coasters in China, so they actually have their own version of the tilt coaster. A completely different track profiling and different way to execute this ride, so they were able to build the tilt coaster in their own version. Of course, these rides, they didn't build them right away after the first tilt coaster was introduced. So in 2016, they opened the first ever kind of this coaster since we've seen in 2002 with Battle of the Jungle, the Heffley Sunak Land over in China. This was a whole other different version of the tilt coaster. They used 2 tilt tracks and made them duel with each other. Clear Golden Horse, they have a different idea of how to sell the tilt coaster and put them in parks around China. And this wasn't like a one-shot thing. Golden Horse is still developing tilt coasters around China. In 2018, they built a Broken Rail roller coaster in China. In 2019, they built another tilt coaster. So these rides are something Golden Horse seems to want to adapt in more parks in China. So will we actually see one of these tilt coasters come to a park in like the US, Europe, just somewhere else in the globe that isn't in China or Asia? I honestly don't think we'll see this because, well, Golden Horse, they're kind of a regional company. They like to stay within the Asian market. We haven't really seen them move outside into other continents or countries. So, Golden Horse may not be the company that we see will build more tilt coasters around the globe because they like to stay regional. They don't like to move outside this country. They like to stay within China and develop their rides there. So I don't know if they will build a tilt coaster somewhere else. I mean, they seem to be the only company that wants to build this kind of ride. I mean, Vekoma, they may want to build another one, but it doesn't seem like anything Vekoma will build that's on their mind. They're probably working on other designs for rides, and the tilt coaster is something that's in the past that they aren't really looking to dig back up again. I mean, maybe Vekoma, they are looking to design a tilt coaster. I mean, when you look at Six Flags Qiddiya, you see that they have a tilt coaster, but you don't really know who's building that tilt coaster. I mean, looking at the ride strictly based on the photo, the track kind of looks like Vekoma. I mean, that could give a sign that Bakoma would be willing to build these again. But looking how they haven't built the tilt coaster since 2002, looks like Golden Horse would probably be the safer bet. But then again, you can't really just look at Six Flags Qiddiya to building a tilt coaster. I mean, that project hasn't even broken ground yet. Plus, that project's like so far in advance, so this tilt coaster may not even happen. So we don't really know the situation with that kind of tilt coaster, whether Bakoma could be building it or Golden Horse is the safer bet because the project will be taking place in Asia, so Golden Horse will be more willing to build it. Plus, they're the only manufacturer who's building it now, since Bakoma hasn't built a tilt coaster since 2002 and they only built one, when Golden Horse, they've built 3 already. So that is just my view on why we don't see many tilt coasters at all anymore in continents like Europe, countries like the US. I just hope that one day Bakoma will build them again and move their location over the US so we could see some of these newer, great Bakoma rides and not some of those awful ones from the past. Or if Golden Horse could build tilt coasters and move over to the US, it would be great so we could see these rides come over and some of their other models. But hey, that's just my view on the tilt coaster, why we don't see them anymore. Comment down below if you have ever ridden a tilt coaster. Do you think any park in the future will get a tilt coaster somewhere in Europe or the US? Remember to hit that subscribe button so you can stay tuned for more content here on Great American Coasters, and I hope to see you guys next time in the future.